Quick disclaimer before anyone listens to this podcast, had some audio issues, especially around the 13-minute mark, incorporating some video aspects into it, so bear with us, some technical difficulties here, but there's no other way to put it, so we're going to have to put this one on William Hall this week. Welcome to another episode of the ASUN Gameday Podcast, the official podcast of ASUN Sports and especially ASUN Football. I'm Jordan Griffitt, joined by William Hall and Mike DeVader. And guys, this is a special podcast. Is the term simulcast maybe a little too broad, but also being on video while also being audio? I know we already talked about being the most watched podcast in the history of podcasts.
Yeah.
Now it's actually a reality.
Is it?
It is.
I'm looking for listeners now at this point.
Yeah, now we actually have to dominate the audio market.
Yeah. We've been killing the visuals, so it's time to expand, Mike.
It's always about keeping your audience on your toes, and now that we've been on visual for a while, now we're looking at trying to get those audio numbers up, so let's get this podcast going. Can't wait to see what we have to talk about today.
Well, now it's a full-fledged production. We have the camera, we have the lights, we got our TVs up here. In case you're listening, we have 4 TVs here on the wall with a 5th one with all of the games from the ASUN football week last week. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into here on the ASUN Analysis. Last week, the ASUN actually went 3-2 over the week. We had our first conference game. Cannot wait to talk about that. Our first wins. Kennesaw State beat Wofford 24-22. Just squeaked that one out against a SoCon opponent. Jacksonville State dominated Nicholls State 52-21. Austin Peay with a 31-20 win over EKU. We will talk about that as the podcast goes on. And the losses, UCA fell 35-27, gave SEMO a run for their money, and then Tarleton State beat UNA 43-28. Guys, what were some of your biggest takeaways from this weekend?
Well, I think I was impressed. I think a lot of people were with Austin Peay with the comeback against EKU. It's a tough opponent, 2 ranked opponents going into that game, the first conference game of the season. So seeing Austin Peay come from behind, from being down with that deficit and battle back and take that win was impressive. And also, Shunderick Powell, 200 more yards on the ground despite the loss. He's legit.
Absolutely. He's the only rusher in the ASUN that rushes for over 100 yards per game, and he rushes for what's the number? 143 per game. The next closest is Anwar Lewis in Jack State with 80.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way you can put that, especially knowing we're in week 4 now. All these teams go into that game with his resume, with his stats, knowing we're going to have to stop him, but you just can't. 143 yards per game, I mean, that's incredible.
Well, and then kind of looking at last week's games for me as well, obviously the Austin Peay EKU game, all the eyes were on that one, kind of flipped the script. First half, EKU had all the momentum. Austin Peay comes storming back on homecoming, get that 11-point victory over EKU. Good for Kennesaw State. They've had a little bit of struggles to begin the season. Now they've also struggled against Wofford over the past couple of years, and they get that 2-point win over the Terriers. So Kennesaw State now tasted victory coming into this next week. They got a bye week, so we got to see if they can carry that over to their next football game. Jacksonville State, they did what we thought they were going to do and hoped they were going to do, and not walk into that game against Nicholls, go a little slow. Are they going to sleepwalk? Absolutely not. 52-21. Gamecocks took care of business. 3-2 on a week. Good week for the ASUN.
Yeah, I want to echo a lot of your guys' takeaways, and 2 of my 3 are from the same game with Austin Peay and EKU. The first one, Austin Peay is officially that team in the ASUN that you can never rule out of a game. They go into the locker room down 20-3. They score 28 unanswered points in the second half. They win 31-20. What more can you say about Austin Peay? When you look at the first half, maybe everyone around the nation looking at that first half and say, okay, well, EKU's the better team, and Austin Peay obviously just couldn't compete. Not the case at all. They flipped the script in the second half. Mike DeLillo with an incredible performance. We will talk about that in just a little bit. And also my other takeaway within that game, I mean, I did finally hit on a bold prediction.
You did.
Last week I said that both quarterbacks combined would go over for 600 yards, 300 total yards each. Even though those those each totals weren't exactly where they needed to be. 637 total yards from both quarterbacks combined, Parker McKinney and Mike DeLillo. So I'm 2 of 5 on the year. But the thing here, my 2 that I've hit on, both been Parker McKinney, I've barely squeaked by. And the 3 that I've missed by. I swung and missed pretty bad. So
I mean, you were riding. I mean, you still have your seat, right?
On the UNA bandwagon?
Yeah.
I built the bandwagon.
Okay.
With my bare hands.
All right.
So yeah, do you have a seat?
Do I have a seat?
Yeah.
I'm getting there. I need you to just pick me up and drop me off and just come back and get me.
It's reserved for you.
Okay.
It'll be there waiting for you. They have a bye week this week, so next week.
Yeah. Just in case. I'll see where I am.
Just for you.
I might need a ride.
I'll have your name plastered on and everything.
Okay.
Yep. Also, my other final takeaway: Jacksonville State. Their depth on offense might be the best in the ASUN. 81 yards from Zion Webb. Anwar Lewis, 58 yards. Ron Wiggins with 61 yards. Matt LaRoche with 3 carries for 51 yards. Pat Jackson, 9 carries, 42 yards. The entire team combined to 303 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground. They had 5 different rushers that went for 40 yards or more. I don't know if there's another team. I mean, Kennesaw State has a great triple option attack, but I don't know if they have 5 guys that can go for 40 or more, or that do consistently. Jacksonville State, their depth is scary. When you have that many guys that can run the ball, and then you have that threat of Zion Webb in the passing game, you have a guy like Sean Brown, 105 yards, only 3 receptions. He had a 76-yard touchdown reception. They got guys everywhere.
Well, what's crazy about that is, though, when you think of a defensive mindset, how those players are reacting to this. When the backups come in, you're supposed to be getting a little bit of a break. If things are going tough on you and the offensive line is leaning on you a little bit, when you see that starter or that backup go out, you're like, man, finally, get a little bit of a break, can take a breather. But not with Jacksonville State. They're bringing guys out that are going to basically be about the same, and they're showing it right now. And as a defender, that is exactly not what you want to see.
And they answered your game within the game last week, which was after the Tulsa game, a disappointing loss to an FBS program. Were they able to come out and rebound? 52 points, I mean, that's a rebound.
Especially with those rushing numbers, they got back to their fundamentals and did exactly what they want to do on the offensive end, and there was no stopping them last week.
Speaking of incredible rushing numbers, we go into our players of the week. William, who did we pick this week?
Starting off with our offensive player of the week, Mike DeLillo, Austin Peay, second offensive player of the week, career high, 181 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground in that comeback win. And I know last week I said that there would be a running back who would play a part in that role with the rushing game, and it was a running quarterback. But, I was accurate, so I'm right there with you with those bold predictions.
Yeah,
so
right. You just squeak by, but it's right.
It's right.
Exactly.
It's right. Markeith Montgomery, Kennesaw State, our defensive player of the week, recorded a 78-yard interception return for his first career touchdown to set a KSU program record with that return. Alan Karagic, Jacksonville State, recorded a perfect kicking game going 7 for 7 on PATs, along with a career-best 46-yard field goal at Nichols in that dominating win by Jacksonville State. And that was his 4th Special Teams Player of the Week award. And Kellen Stewart, Austin Peay for the Govs, returned 3 kicks, 73 yards in the win against Eastern Kentucky. So those were our Week 4 ASUN Players of the Week for football.
Well, to add on to Mike DeLillo's game, C.J. Evans, an underrated running back for them, also had 83 yards in that game. But DeLillo, such an incredible start to the year, 20 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I think something that we learned, we knew this. We knew he was a complete athlete. But that many rushing yards, 180 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He had one that he broke for about 50 yards, maybe even more. That guy can scoot. That guy can absolutely blaze down the field.
Yeah. And just throwing this out there, I like looking ahead and like being I'm bold with you,
Yeah.
Is he right now, is he Offensive Player of the Year?
We had this discussion before this podcast because I think it's a good question. I want to hear your thoughts, Mike. Player of the year, I think there's really only – I'll throw in 3 players so far.
I think it's 3.
For through week 4 in the ASUN Conference. Shenderick Powell obviously needs to be considered. I mean, he's done everything you need to for a running back. Mike DeLillo or Parker McKinney. Who would be your offensive player of the year through 4 weeks?
Well, based on those 3, you can take one away right now with the head-to-head matchup. And Austin Peay takes the lead So then you kind of look ahead. What's going to happen in the next head-to-head matchup? North Alabama, Austin P. Who's going to take advantage of that matchup, do their job on the field? But right now, I think the quarterback is in the lead. Regardless of what's going on during the running game, it's the sexy pick. The quarterback leads the team. Austin P, new to the league. They're able to really put a stamp on the league so far as what they've done in the early season, non-conference games. Then they really stood the test and were able to pass it, even though they didn't start well. The quarterback position did what he's supposed to do. DeLillo was able to bring his team back in the second half when it meant the most. Now he's 1-0 in the league, and I think he's the front runner right now. Powell's right on him, though.
What?
I think it's close with me. It was the two. The quarterbacks that went head-to-head last week. McKinney and DeLillo, but I think just looking at the numbers, I think Mike's got a slight edge to me. But Parker's right there in it. 70% of his passes, I think he's got 11 touchdowns on the year. He's got more passing yards.
Leads the ASUN in passing yards per game, 320.
Yeah, so yeah. I think that that's the two-man race to me, the two quarterbacks at the moment. But, again, like you were saying, if Powell keeps coming, putting up numbers like that, if he can, stay consistent, he might run away with it. That pun was intended. So.
You're averaging 143 yards a game on the ground. It doesn't matter where you play or what level you're playing. Yeah, that's hard to do against your own team in practice.
Right.
So, and they even know what's happening. So it's crazy to think that he's got 143 yards a game, and if he goes for 2,000, we're gonna have a different conversation. 1,800, maybe
right.
So too. But
yeah,
it's gonna be fun to watch. All three of these players are gonna give it their best, and we'll see who ends up with the award at the end.
Now, I said Mike DeLillo earlier. I might retract that statement. Looking at Shunderick Powell, I think it would be either between, for me, DeLillo or Shunderick Powell. 590 rushing yards, 9 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns, 142 yards per game.
So
just to be different, I will go Shunderick Powell.
Is that different or is that on brand for you?
It's on brand for me because
okay.
I'm the optimist.
Yeah,
because I want what they deserve recognition, and obviously my bandwagon certainly plays a part in this.
Oh yeah, that's not bold. That's not a bold pick. With that performance, that's solid.
It's not. You almost have 600 yards, 4 games in, 8 touchdowns. He's been the catalyst for the UNA offense so far. The answer is probably DeLillo, 20 touchdowns, a few picks this year, but you're going to take that with, he had 5 or 6, and however many rushing yards he has so far on the year. He can do both, but Shunderick Powell, man, that is a guy right now, so I'm very impressed with him so far this year.
And I'm not sure any other league with the quarterbacks we have going right now, he would definitely be number one in a lot of leagues because, you said 9 yards a carry. He's averaging almost a first down every time he touches the ball. Yeah, give me a break. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to this upcoming week. We talked about last week. Now time to talk about what we have coming up. We have 3 games this week. Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State. Central Arkansas at Austin P in Eastern Kentucky. They host Southern Utah. I thought it was Utah Tech. Southern Utah this week. So there's only 3 games, so we have to divvy them up strategically among us. Mike, you're going to take Eastern Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky, Southern Utah. And, William, we're going to have kind of a different segment here. We're going to debate as to who should win against UCA, Austin P. We're going to kind of debate each other and see what Mike comes up with if he thinks that one of us has the edge. How about that?
Oh, no. Picking a winner. Huh?
You don't have to pick a winner. You have to pick an argument.
Between us, though? You can pick a winner between us.
Right.
Okay, I will.
It's not really saying the team's going to win, but you can just be like, yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool. Let's do that.
All right. Well, let's start off with Eastern Kentucky as they host Southern Utah.
Okay. Well, we talked about Eastern Kentucky a little bit. My game, Southern Utah's visiting the Colonels here on Saturday. EKU 2-2 coming off that Austin P loss that we spoke about, 31-20. Southern Utah is 3-1 coming into the matchup off a 31-17 win over Utah Tech, which is in the WAC. They're 1-0 in the WAC. And it's the first ever meeting between these two schools on the gridiron. So kind of looking at the matchup with some stats here, Southern Utah, 68th in total offense, 342.5 yards per game, but 106th in rushing offense, 94.2. The area where I think that EKU can really take advantage on the defensive end against Southern Utah comes in third down conversion, tied for 106th in the country at just 27.8%. So I really think with EKU scoring on the offensive end, defensively they can really take advantage of the poor efficiency on third down that Southern Utah is bringing into the game. But obviously we know about Eastern Kentucky passing offense, 310 yards a game, 8th in the nation. Total yards, 427.8, 23rd in the country. And you have Parker McKinney that's just rewriting the record books in the ASUN and at his own school at EKU almost every week. Because last week he set a program record for career touchdown passes, tossing his 52nd touchdown in the second quarter. And so he owns EKU's career touchdown completions and attempts record and needs just 299 yards here on Saturday to set the school record for career passing yards as well. So obviously the offense is going to get the primary focus from EKU, and well-deserved. But the defense, can they come up and keep Southern Utah to 106th third down conversion rate in the country, 27.8. That's a huge key. Let's see what they do.
Yeah, obviously you're going to want to have to keep them off the field, but I think something that is huge in this game is the outside factor of playing a WAC team. And as of right now, the only team in the WAC that has a conference win, as you mentioned, they beat Utah Tech last week or the week before. You have a chance to beat a WAC team, a team that's going to compete toward the top of that division. Stephen F. Austin, we thought they were going to compete. They still could. They're 2-2 right now. They also had a loss against Louisiana Tech, and the alliance with the ASUN this year for the AQ. That's going to be a big story to watch. So Eastern Kentucky, they host Southern Utah this week. Okay.
Well, I think also about EKU though.
Go for it.
Just I think I'm curious to see. We talked about the Austin Peay, the comeback. How much does that EKU losing that lead, does that hang on them and coming back home and playing this week? And I think that they got a good chance to make a statement. It was a good team. You lost to a good team, a great game. But I also want to see, does that linger? Does that carry over for this next week? Because, you were in full control of that game. You might feel like you kind of let it slip away. So just the mentality of them coming into this week, I'm curious to see how they do against this game.
Yeah, I love it. Definitely think that's something to watch out for. Central Arkansas at Austin Peay. You want to bat lead off or you want to defer?
Do we have a coin first? You can't defer without a coin flip.
On the ASUN game, we make the rules here, Mike. We can defer if we choose.
We are the permission.
I am the permission.
That is another inside joke here at the ASUN. That's William's nickname. He is the permission.
So
you think about asking a question, it's already answered.
Permission
denied.
No.
Accept? Approved?
Yeah.
Okay. For what?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. You defer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Deferred.
It took a long time to get there.
We got there.
We got there. But we got there. Central Arkansas, if they're going to win this game, it's going to be off the back, and this is a very predictable thing to say, but Darius Hale has really just started to clear his throat this year. 70 yards a game, has 3 touchdowns on the year. 2 of those came against, or I believe all of those came against Idaho State 2 weeks ago. I would say the strength of this defense right now for Central Arkansas is the front line. Logan Jessup, we knew he would be incredible coming into this year. He has continued to do so, a preseason All-ASUN team member. 4 sacks, had a 1 against SEMO with a forced fumble. This guy's been a menace off of the edge. He's going to have to be in the backfield early and often against a guy like Mike DeLillo, but you still have to contain the pocket because DeLillo obviously can run. He can scramble with the best of them. They're also 3-0 all-time versus Austin Peay. Austin Peay has never beat them. That plays in the Central Arkansas's favor here. Austin Peay is going to have to come to this game hot, and they're going to have to come into it fast. We'll see if that happens. Central Arkansas, again, on the offensive end, Darius Hill has not quite gotten as hot as we anticipated. I think he's going to in this one. I think this is a guy that's ready to burst out. And let me retract that as well. 70 yards a game, 3 touchdowns, not a bad year at all. But this is a guy that can be capable of maybe even doubling that. He's going to go off in this game, Darius Hale. If they do all of those things, Central Arkansas can win this game. Pull off the upset.
That's fair. That's fair. And I mean, you start with DeLillo. I think that's where we have to go to start this conversation about Austin Peay. Nearly 450 yards of offense. So that's the clear thing that they have going as the offense. But I think as good as their offense has been, the defense may be sinking below the radar. I mean, you mentioned Darius Hale, but Austin Peay hasn't given up a rushing touchdown this season. No. 0 second half points to FCS opponents. I mean, they're giving up just 12.2 points per game. That leads to ASUN 7th in the FCS. There's no ASUN team that's holding opponents under 21 points. So I think that although the offense is there, the defense is what's going to be able to bottle up UCA, contain Darius Hale. And then, Mike just has to do what he does.
Mike's got to do what he does.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, Mike DeLillo, Mike DeVader, what's the difference?
In this scenario, I don't think there is one. So
40 times. Who thinks run faster?
Yeah. I've had a few more surgeries than Mike has, but he has a good name, but he's in college and I'm not, unfortunately, because I love that. But in this scenario, looking at both the options that you presented to me, I think the offense is going to win out, and you're going to lose by default because you both gave really good arguments. However, because of who we have at number one for the Offensive Player of the Year so far, the quarterback, because they're going to score on UCA, that's going to take Central Arkansas out of what you want them to do and run Darius Hale. Because this game right back here with SEMO, Hale struggled to get going because they got down early. And if that happens on Saturday, Darius Hale, unfortunately, is going to be trickling out of the game plan because they're going to have to play catch-up. And William gets the victory.
That segment was stupid anyway. That was a stupid
Was
idea.
it?
Yeah,
Like
it was.
We're going to get rid of that?
Yeah, we'll cut the whole
They can't
thing.
make a return?
Well, I mean, hey, it's okay that you guys are wrong. That's,
Okay, all right.
Hey, whatever you got to do to make yourself feel better. And
Yeah.
if Darius Hale goes off, it's going to be right there because of the disrespect that we gave him. And I look forward to that opportunity to say sorry to him if he goes off for 212 yards.
Exactly. I mean, this game comes down to the rushing attack for both sides. I think both are top 100 in the nation in rush defense. So we'll see who's able to stop it. Not 100, the top 30, as in UCA is 25th and Austin Peay is 20th. They hold teams to just under 100 yards rushing per game. We'll see if that changes.
In 12 straight games, they forced a turnover. Does that streak continue? I mean, I'll gracefully take my win.
And
though.
turnovers put teams behind, which means you can't run the ball anymore, which means you got to throw it, which means no running back is available.
I won't rub it in.
We'll see. We'll see Saturday.
Yeah.
I'll let my Central Arkansas Bears do the talking. How about that? Bandwagon builder.
Oh, you got two bandwagons?
Did you hear that, UNA? There's a
I can't.
my Central
I think it's the
Arkansas
color.
Bears.
You're just a fan of
The purples. Yeah, the purple schools.
Gotcha.
All of them.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
All right, Mike. It's time for your standout stat. What do you got this week?
Okay, well, last week we took a look at some negatives as far as what penalties can do for teams and kind of in crucial situations, what penalties could potentially do down the line to some of these teams when they're trying to compete for a championship. So this week we're going to do something a little different and give some love to the third phase of the game and special teams, more importantly, the kickers on these teams, because kickers are people too. That's famously known around the world as what the kickers like to do in the game, and they get made fun of a lot when they're trying to chase a punt returner down. But that's not what we're doing today. We're talking about stats for our kickers around the ASUN, and here we go. We're going to dive into field goals, and there's a lot of caveats to kicking, so we're going to cover three different stats here. So field goals, PATs, and punts around the ASUN. So far, field goals, we're 23 of 34, 67.6%. And what's funny is UNA hasn't attempted a field goal yet this year. They have 0 attempts on the season. And as far as PATs are concerned, we have missed 1 as a league at 91 out of 92, which is 98.9%. That's fantastic. Punt average, 39.3 yards per punt around the ASUN. If they were a team at 39.3 yards per kick, that is 17th in the NCAA. So that's pretty darn good coming from our punt teams. And obviously, the kicking game can sway momentum from one side to the other. They can flip fields. And for today, we're going to give love to those kickers that work so hard at their craft and what they do for our teams around the ASUN.
Did you say 98.9%?
Yes, that's correct. 91 out of 92 PATs have been made on the season.
Wow. It's like winning like a lot of trivia. That's amazing.
Which I wouldn't know much about. Still scoreless. No, to your point, Mike, I mean, just an example in Kennesaw State's favor against Wofford, they missed that extra point on their first score. They go up 6-0. That played a huge role into their defeat against Kennesaw State because if you hit that PAT, then you don't have to go for 2 in the fourth quarter, and then you're fine. Then you tie the game up, and then you're likely going to overtime. Sure, the game could have gone either way. Could have gone either way for Kennesaw State as well. But it does make a big difference when you don't hit those PATs, when the field goals don't go down. And kickers are people too.
Kickers are people too.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing we could take away from this. Kickers and punters.
Unless you're the backup kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, then you're getting released.
See, you can't go one podcast without bringing up the Chiefs, can you?
Hey, well, this subject is weighing heavy on my heart right now. Thanks to
subject.
Harrison Butker being hurt. Let's get ready for Sunday because we need you. We lost the game to the Colts. We shouldn't have, but we're not going to talk about that.
No, but we will talk about our ASUN game of the week. I think you're able to figure it out. The other 2 games that we covered, we got one left. Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State. It's going to be a great one. We'll talk about on the other side. This is the ASUN game of the week. Welcome back to the ASUN Gameday Podcast. Jordan Griffitt, William Hall, Mike DeVader. Our game of the week here in the ASUN. You knew it. Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State. A 2 p.m. Eastern kick will be 1 p.m. Central. There's a lot on the line for both of these teams this week, guys. Kennesaw State got off to a slow start, 0-2 to Sanford Cincinnati. Bounced back with a narrow but a win against Wofford at home. Jacksonville State coming off one of their more emphatic wins of the year. What stands out in this game for both of you guys?
Well, first of all, before I get into that, just like to say that I was too excited a little bit ago when talking about Kennesaw State, and obviously they didn't come off. They don't have a bye because they're playing right now. They had a bye coming into Wofford, which obviously that's my bad. So
no, they're the first team in ASUN history to have a bye and play on the same weekend.
Yeah, so looking at my notes, I misspoke. I got too excited. So obviously they do play, and we're excited to see this matchup because it's I think it's going to be full of firepower, and it's all going to start up front. These 2 offensive lines are going to just battle it out with these defensive lines, and these offenses are going to try to run it down your throat. And good luck trying to stop them because these defenses are going to get cut. They're going to get blocked. It's going to be a good old-fashioned slobber knocker on the offensive and defensive line, and it's going to be really fun to watch. It's going to be an old-style, throwback, traditional type of football game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Now, if you want to talk about rivals, Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State might be the closest teams in proximity to each other with these ASUN teams. North Alabama, I'm not sure how close they are. I actually think Jacksonville State might be closer to Kennesaw State than they are to North Alabama. But regardless, there's a lot of history with this team that's recent. Go back to 2017, the playoff meeting with them in Jacksonville. 5 overtime thriller in 2018. That was in at the time SunTrust, now Truist Park. 5 overtimes. Bryson Armstrong with the end zone interception to end that one in overtime. known as one of the cornerstone games in Kennesaw State's football history. There's a lot of history here, a lot of animosity between these two teams. This is about as good as rival gets in the ASUN, William.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see. I mean, obviously KSU's had some tough opponents these first few weeks. They got the scoring up last week against Wofford. So just against Jacksonville State, I want to know if they're going to be able to turn it on and score with the Gamecocks. I think that's something that Jacksonville State does that KSU's going to have to keep up with, and I think they're able to, but I want to see it happen. I mean, JSU's, they're averaging 36 points a game. KSU's down at 17 points per game, so that's going to be a challenge for them to get into the end zone. Field goals aren't going to get it done. You have to score touchdowns against the Gamecocks, and that's what I'm looking for. Is that offense turning up and actually producing points to keep up with JSU?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of great points, and I think we always talk about how do you finish, how's the second half going to play out. I actually don't think that's going to be the case in this one. I think it's going to be whoever wins the first half is likely going to win this game because of their running styles. It's going to be hard to catch up. If one of these teams gets up 2 to maybe even 3 possessions, that might be the nail in the coffin for either side. But one of the reasons I think this as well, Kennesaw State has gotten off to really slow starts this year. Only 21 points in the first quarter so far this season. And Jacksonville State, it's been one of their strongest quarters, along with quarter number 2 going into the locker room. 35 points in the first half and 35 points in the first quarter all year long. Again, Kennesaw State only 21. And it's technically 28, excluding Markeith Montgomery's pick 6 last week, which was pretty much the game-defining play. Whoever gets that first lead, that initial 2-possession take, is likely going to win this game. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to be the case because we know Jonathan Murphy and we know Zion Webb, and we both know they can throw the ball just as well as they can run it. I'm very excited for that. The first 2 quarters, I think, is going to be the key to this game.
Well, real quick, you guys have brought up questions to me, William. You've asked questions of us. And I have an over-under here. If both teams are able to do what they want to do on offense with their rushing game.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten a bold prediction out, so this might be it here.
Here we go.
I'm going to stay away from that. I'm not going to quite get there. But based on that first quarter, and if these offenses are able to run the ball, what's the over-under on the amount of time this game's going to take to be over? Is it going to
might be quick.
2.5 hours football game? Because with all these commercials, you're pushing 3.5, 4 hours sometimes. But in this game, it might be done before people even check the score.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to shorten this game by 3 or 4 possessions. So, yeah, I mean, this could be – I would set the over-under at probably 2:45. Honestly, I think that this game could easily be 2.5 hours. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
I was going to go about 2:45. I'm definitely under 3. Definitely under 3.
Now, what would be the over-under for rushing yards? 300 rushing yards last week for Jacksonville State. The spread option offense for Kennesaw State, obviously they're going to run the ball. But they did throw the ball quite a bit. They did do some shotgun, some empty back. I don't know if that's necessarily going to translate to, again, we talked about the history for Jacksonville State, but this is a brand new Jacksonville State team, a new coach. Even though he's doing it with the same quarterback with Zion Webb, this looks like a brand new ball team, so you can pretty much take away everything that's happened in the past. What do you think the over-under for rushing yards would be?
I'm going to go a little lower than you're probably thinking. I'm going to say 450.
Combined?
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
I just think I don't think it's going to – again, I think games kind of go in that different direction. I think it is going to be quick, but I think there's going to be some quick strikes that are going to get things done. I think somebody's got to go through the air and not exactly control that pace the way they want to. And somebody's going to have to get out of their game plan, so to speak, and air it out a little bit.
Okay. I like the sentiment there. I'm going to agree with you for Jacksonville State side. Here's my bold prediction. I'm just coming out with this on the whim here. But I think this is going to happen. Kennesaw State been waiting for a while for Isaac Foster to burst on the scene again. He did it back in his sophomore year, one of the better running backs Kennesaw State's seen out of the slot. I think there's going to be a 100-yard rushing game for him, which is saying a lot for a single rusher for Kennesaw State. And I think there's going to be a 100-yard receiving game once again for Sean Brown. I think he's going to get 1 or 2 big shots against Kennesaw State secondary. He goes over 100 yards. I think that'll be my bold prediction. Isaac Foster over 100 and Sean Brown over 100 as well.
Okay. Noted.
That might be my most specific one.
Yeah, you drilled in on that time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's wrong, but that's what I'm going with.
I think you're really going out on a good limb there, because if teams are really going to shorten the possessions in the game, those big plays that you want to see out of the receivers, that's going to put even more pressure on those other offenses. Because if you spend 8, 9, maybe 10 minutes on a drive thinking you're going to try to control the pace, all of a sudden somebody does a triple option pass, somebody's wide open, they score in 2 plays or 1 play right off the bat, man, that's going to be disheartening for that other team, because you worked so hard to get that score. Yeah. Game's already tied, so how's that going to work? And I think that's a good battle to look at, and that's a good bold prediction.
And Kennesaw State coming to this game, I mean, they really need this win. I mean, you would have 3 losses if Jacksonville State is victorious in this one. So there's a lot of pressure on both sides. And, again, a lot of history. It's a huge rival game. Going back to Jacksonville State, I cannot wait to see how that game goes, guys. All right, our last football segment here on ASUN Game Day, the game within the game. I'm going to keep it on the same topic, because mine is the Kennesaw State Owls as well as Jacksonville State, but the quarterback battle. And I'm not talking about Jonathan Murphy versus Zion Webb. I'm talking about Jonathan Murphy along with Xavier Shepard, ASUN preseason conference player of the year, offensive player of the year. Did not get the start against Wofford, has not had a good start to the season, but Coach Brian Bohanna has emphasized, I need both of you guys to win. We did not see him against Wofford, but I think we're going to see both of these guys against Jacksonville State. You're going to bring Xavier Shepard out for some traditional spread option plays as well. He can throw the ball just as well as Jonathan Murphy as well. And then Zion Webb, are you going to be able to contain him? So a trio of quarterbacks, that's going to be my game within the game to watch. Jonathan Murphy and Xavier Shepard, what's the snap count going to be like? Is it Jonathan Murphy's job from here on out? I don't know. We'll see what's going to be like here on Saturday. So those 2 quarterbacks, along with trying to contain Zion Webb on the ground. Kennesaw State, historically, one of the better teams in the ASUN at stopping the run. Is Zion Webb going to make that obsolete? We'll see on Saturday. So my game within the game there. What do you got, Mike?
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the game that I featured. I'm going to talk about Eastern Kentucky, Southern Utah. And I really want to focus in on that 3rd down conversion rate for Southern Utah, because that to me is going to show us right off the bat where Southern Utah is going to be standing with Eastern Kentucky. Because obviously we can talk all day long and all night long about the offense that EKU is going to bring. I think they're going to be okay rebounding in that regard, even though they fell to 2-2. Southern Utah, they're coming in 3-1. They got some confidence off their first victory in the WAC. They're 1-0. What are they going to do to try to confuse Eastern Kentucky, to try to show some things that they haven't seen on tape, try to get that 3rd down conversion rate up? Because 27.8, either way you slice it, that's not very good. So their offense hasn't been staying on the field, but they're putting up points. So how are they going to do that? What kind of schemes are they going to try to bring with Eastern Kentucky and try to keep that momentum, try to improve to 4-1? Eastern Kentucky needs to get over that 500 hump, but can they do it on the defensive end, try to control that game and give the ball back to their offense? And I think they will, but I think that's important.
Agreed. William?
I mean, I hate to do it and go back to it, but no, I don't. I'm fine with going back to it. It's the game of the week. I think we've had this game circled for a while. We were talking about it, JSU, KSU. 71 straight games against FCS opponents that Kennesaw State has run for 150-plus yards. So my game within the game is that JSU defensive front. Can they do enough to disrupt KSU from what they want to do? Can they put a stop to that, slow them down, and then again going back to what I talked about, force KSU to maybe have to take those strikes through the air and do something that maybe is not going to come natural or what they would be comfortable doing, but those things that you got to do to win a game when your game plan you came with it's not working. So that's my game within the game, that JSU defense disrupting the KSU rushing game.
Yeah, and another word for it around the spread option offense is what's called the mesh point, and that's really where everything happens. You snap the ball. Are you going to hand off up the middle? Is it going to be an option right, option left? So if they're able to disrupt that mesh point, make Kennesaw State throw the ball, we'll see. Is either one of these quarterbacks, like I mentioned, are they going to be able to have success against Jacksonville State's secondary? Their secondary has been rather good so far this year. So I'm very interested to see Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, the ASUN game of the week, 2 p.m. Eastern kick in Jacksonville, Alabama. All right, we're done talking about football. We've talked enough. ASUN preview. What's going on around the ASUN, William?
I think everybody knows fall sports are going right now. Men's and women's soccer, volleyball, got fall golf happening, cross country. So just want to take this moment. We don't have any football schools in the state of Florida, but the majority of our other membership is down south. So just want to give our thoughts to everyone down there dealing with any destruction from the hurricane in the state of Florida. Yeah. Stay safe. We'll get everything fixed, and we'll be back running here soon. Getting back to what we love doing, is playing sports.
Absolutely. I love it. All right, moving on to our final segment. It's time.
It's time.
It's trivia time.
Oh.
I'm scoreless. Go ahead and lead that one off right now. I'm scoreless. Willem, you took, I wouldn't say you took a lead, but you kept your lead. 4. Mike, you got 2. You guys ready for this one?
I have to be, because
last week you both got it. Last week you both got it, which was just outright embarrassing.
That doesn't help me, though. I need wins.
Did that hurt? You seem like you just...
Yeah, it did hurt. It did hurt.
You were confident about that one.
Yeah, I thought that was the one.
I blame Eric.
It was the opposite. It was the easiest.
It's Eric's fault.
It was Eric's fault. Eric, this is all me here.
Oh, this is you. You didn't consult?
No. So if you both guess this, then I'm gonna have to hand this off or something, because I'm a disappointment to everybody at that point. I take trivia seriously.
I see.
Serious business. All right. Our trivia for this week. What food or drink causes more weight gain than any other food? Option A, grilled cheese. Option B, potato chips. Or option C, apple juice. Now, I'm to be honest, when I looked up the fact, it just said food, didn't say drink. I feel like apple juice isn't a food, so I added the / drink just for full clarity here. Grilled cheese, potato chips, or apple juice. What food causes more weight gain than the others? Than any other food, really. This is number 1 of weight gain. You want to gain weight? You eat one of these 3 foods. The silence is deafening. Wow. Is it really that difficult?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess it is.
Well, I see why you would gain weight with all of these, so that's tough to kind of divide these up, because obviously grilled cheese, you got the bread. Everybody knows if you eat too much bread, you're in trouble. Potato chips, they have the stereotype of you sitting around like a couch potato and you're eating potato chips. And I guess I'll go first since I continue to talk, and I kind of took over here. So grilled cheese, it makes sense. Bread, potato chips, makes sense. But I'm going to randomly think that because there's so much sugar in apple juice, and sugar is what is in pop. I don't say soda. I'm from Kansas. It's pop.
Oh.
Apple juice.
2 Kansas references.
With Kansas City's in Missouri, but that's okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Back to the original topic of our answer here. C, apple juice, because of the sugar that's in juices and or milk. I think if you drink too much apple juice, the sugar is going to catch up with you and put on weight.
Locked.
No other choice. Locked.
No other choice. No, you have 2 other choices, but locked into apple juice. William. Thoughts? Anything?
I have thoughts, but I don't. I'm gonna go with apple juice.
Okay.
But it's because it's. I don't know though. I was gonna say, I don't know. Weight gain. Like instant weight gain, or are we talking about like long-term weight gain? Because I feel like drinking something, you're gonna gain more weight than eating something. It's water.
I don't want to. I don't know, so I can't tell. I'm gonna say I don't want to. I can't tell you.
Is this How legit are these? We need Eric back because you came with these questions. You come in and it's like, I don't know. It just made up something. This is backed up by science?
I would assume this would be short term if it's saying what would cause more weight gain.
Apple juice.
Apple juice?
Yeah.
Okay. We locked?
Yeah.
I am finally on the board. Yes. Potato chips.
Dang it.
It is potato. I went with the most stereotypical one, which was the truth, and I threw the other ones around. Yes!
Oh. Yeah, we can't let this happen again.
Yeah.
This is too much.
That finally getting on the board with one. Yes.
I had
It would
forgotten.
be my only one.
I had forgotten what the feeling was like to win from week 1, and your exclamation right there just made me remember. So next week it's over.
That's that guinea pig look right there.
So I'd like to thank you for that.
Yes.
Act like you've been there before, Jordan.
I haven't.
Act like you've been there before.
No, I can't because I haven't. It's my first win. Probably my only. I mean, it's
gonna
been
be next
such
week.
a long road for me. I have some people who think. My parents, first of all, for bringing me here. That's probably it.
No, it's short lived.
Well, and yeah, I wasn't prepared to win. You obviously could tell I didn't prepare a speech because I did not think I'd ever win one of these. So
I think we were part of your origin story.
yeah, I became a villain.
I need to trust myself more because I had potato chips right on the tip of my tongue, and I let our fans down by letting Jordan off the hook.
Yeah, keep
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And I showed my cards there because the original fact did say just food, and I put apple juice in there, and I realized like a couple of minutes ago before we did this that it only said food, and that would immediately take away apple juice.
And that's typically the things that I notice, and because you added it, I thought it was still part of the question, and it could have been. Because if it was food, obviously apple juice gets erased.
Yep.
But I blame myself. I let everyone down. I let Jordan get excited. So it's a post-game speech I don't want to make, but I'm sorry.
He's making his post-game.
I'm sorry for the result tonight. And
Be better next
You got to be better, Mike.
don't worry. He gave me the motivation I need all week to get ready for next week because it ain't happening again.
Wow.
I believe you.
Wow.
The people listening to this,
Made me uncomfortable.
They better be watching. They better be watching too because
Watching and listening.
it's on.
What
now.
they do is they simulcast literally. They watch and they also listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice transition. Speaking of transitions, that is going to do it for the ASUN Gameday Podcast. Make sure to watch all three games this weekend here in ASUN football. We got Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Austin P, UCA, as well as EKU as well. So make sure to watch those games. Jordan Griffitt, William Hall, Mike DeVader. I'm finally on the board. Trivia. Let's go.
And in all seriousness, congratulations. Welcome to the club. You're finally here. We'll see you next week.
Give it a peace.
Peace.
We'll see you guys next week.